So, way to go on getting this practice down, getting off the ground and in. This gives you a foundation to work from so that when you're revising, you can kind of build on what you have here. The comments I want to offer you really have to do with organizing your essay in a way that I think is going to help you guide the reader through the points that you want to make and also help you really develop each idea as fully and as accurately as possible. And so rather than commenting on the essay itself, I've put a little bit of a outline down here following the essay to kind of guide you through the way that you might want to consider organizing and setting up this essay. So the first thing you're going to want to think about is having your introduction, your academic summary introduction. And you might remember from the assignment sheet that some of the things we need to include in that to meet the formal criteria are you want to have the name and author of the talk, the title of the talk, the date that it was given, or at least the year, and the place. And that all just sort of sets the stage for the rest of the essay. You also, in that introduction, want to capture Dweck's overall message or what her overall purpose or thesis is. Why is she giving this talk? What are her main points? And so, an introduction, a formal summary introduction, would look something more like this. In Carol Dweck's talk titled Teaching Growth Mindset, given in 2015 at Stanford University, Dweck argues that, and this was your idea that I pulled down here, that all minds are capable of a growth mindset. And I think that's true. I think that is what she argues for. So this would make for a strong introduction to sort of set the stage for you. So looking back at what you have right now, you can see what you're doing here. This is kind of an engaging way to hook the reader, but you're not going to want to do that in an academic summary because you really want to kind of get to the point of summarizing her ideas. And so you want to sort of focus on some of these ideas here. This was the idea that I pulled and used in the rewrite below that I just showed you, this idea that all minds are capable of growth mindset. This part right here about endless amounts of storage space, that is true. Brain researchers have found out that that's true, but that's not really what Dweck is saying. She's not really talking about storage space when she's talking about growth. What she's really talking about is how we view ourselves and whether or not we think that we are capable of learning more, or whether or not we think that our brains are more stagnant. So I would suggest cutting that piece because I don't think it's really accurately representing what she's talking about. But this is fine. I think having these quotes works pretty well. And then this all sort of captures, I think, what she's talking about as well. So this right here, previous research shows that only a few years later, certain children seem to lose interest. That's true. This was Dweck's study. And even though you're not quoting her, you're going to want to, actually, let me not do it that way. Let me just do it in here. You're going to want to include a parenthetical citation here to remind the reader that that idea is coming from Dweck. And then you go on to say the research that needed to be conducted is why this happens and if can be corrected. So yes, that's it. That's exactly what Dweck says. But instead of this vague research to this reference to the research that needed to be conducted, tie that to Dweck. So you might just say something like Dweck conducted her research to find out why this happens and if it can be corrected. And that just kind of more accurately and concretely, I think, captures this. So all of this other information I think works well. Make sure to set your summary up using these formal elements in your introduction. When it comes to the body paragraph, I think your instincts on here that the right thing to do in this first body paragraph is to define for your reader what the difference is between fixed mindsets and growth mindsets. That's what you start to do. So I'm actually going to suggest that you take this out. I'm going to cut it. And I'm going to move it because that topic sentence here about the research in Chile is a whole separate paragraph and something that you could develop in its own paragraph. So this doesn't really necessarily set up the rest of this paragraph. And you're off to a good start here. And this shows me, based on the quotes that you pulled, that you do understand the difference pretty well, and that you can explain that to your reader. I had a couple of suggestions for how you can make that body paragraph number one even stronger. So great start here. One thing I'd like to see you work on is paraphrasing a little bit more, putting it in your own words. This feels pretty quote heavy. I'd say like 75% of this paragraph is quoted, and maybe 25% of it are your words, or even less, and you want to flip that. You can include some quotes, but you want it to mostly be your words, in your language, in your style, and then you can include a couple of quotes here and there. So a little less quote heavy. So pull in the paraphrasing there. And then the other thing I'm suggesting you do is that you add in beliefs-free mindset. So what I'm talking about there is you tell us in this paragraph how fixed mindset people behave. Oh, let's see, actually. I'm wrong. Scratch that. Let me look back at this again. You say, when they're in a fixed mindset, they believe their talents and abilities are just fixed traits. They have a certain amount, and that's it. Okay, awesome. That's great. So develop a sentence right after that. Tell us, how do they behave as a result? If they believe that intelligence is fixed, then what happens to fixed mindset learners when they're actually faced with a challenge? What do they do? So include another sentence to flesh that out. And then you can go on to this next point that continues. But when they're in more of a growth mindset, they can forget about smarter stuff and can focus on developing their abilities. So here, what you need to add in, either before or after the sentence, is what is it that growth mindset learners believe about learning? So what allows them to forget about being smart or dumb and to really focus on working hard and being resilient and trying over and over again? What is their core belief about learning that helps them behave in this way? So I think you've got like half of the equation for each of these. You just want to flesh that out in the way that I just explained. So once you have this paragraph fleshed out, then you can transition into your first example. And that's important because you're going to show your reader how Dweck supports her thesis. So Dweck conducted a study in Chile with 160 10th graders, and you can add to that to find out what, to look at what. And so give us more detail. Really, what was that study about? What did her team look at? And then what did they find? So you're going to want to flesh out a whole paragraph here. Body paragraph number 2. What did the Chile study look at? Give us those details, capture those details, paraphrase those details, and then what did the study reveal? It revealed a couple of very important things about growth mindset and performance, and also about growth mindset and socioeconomic status. So you may want to look back at the video, kind of remember what some of those details were. What did the study look like, and what did the study reveal? Once you finish developing that paragraph, you're going to develop another body paragraph, a new paragraph, where you develop a second example that will also support what Dweck is saying. And there are lots of examples, but a couple of the ones that I think students tend to have a lot of success with are the Brain Points math game or the Fortune 500. So you will want to introduce one of these examples, and just as you did in body paragraph 2, you'll want to ask the same questions and answer them. What did the study look at? So what were the details of the study? And then what did the study reveal? So take us through another example so that we can kind of see how effective this growth mindset claim really is. And at that point, you can drive home Dweck's message in a conclusion paragraph, and I think you're already doing this pretty nicely. So when I look back up at your conclusion, and it says here, Dweck concluded that putting it all together, we're thinking really big and working really hard. Everyone, children, adults, no matter what age, can look like this again. Referencing this picture of the happy baby. So I actually think you have a nice conclusion there, but what needs to happen is a little bit different organization coming into this essay, sort of how I've outlined it down here, and then some more development of those examples along the way so that your story can be supported in the same way that she supported it all. So I hope that these comments and feedback were helpful, Chris, and as you revise, if you have questions, let me know. I know that technically the deadline is Friday, but if you need to take Saturday or Sunday, you have a little bit more time to work on this and get it confident, feel free to take that time and just submit your essay. Okay, thanks.